Hello, good
Welcome.
evening. What a beautiful evening it is.
It's pretty nice outside. Actually, nice and cool. It's been so hot lately.
I'm still hot, but I run hot. It's fine.
Now, welcome
to
to Keeping Dark
Light
uh,
with Nick and Hayley.
have lost two wonderful people this past week. Hulk Hogan and
Ozzy. Yes, but before we dive into that, I always like to kind of circle back on whenever you're talking about the last week. So we do have a lot to uncover and discuss there. However, in the meantime, I just wanted to share some very exciting news and remind you all that you just got to be persistent and maintaining positivity. But Hayley got a job! Yay!
Yeah!
So
She wore a blazer this time.
I wore a blazer, but I pretty much probably already had the job before I went in. It was just kind of more of a formality. And honestly, it worked out to be what is honestly the most perfect fit for me. I even talked to the recruiter I was working with before, with the place that didn't hire me because I wasn't wearing a blazer. I'm also celebrating tonight not wearing a blazer because I'm going to have to wear a blazer a
You
lot.
don't see it, but I'm wearing a Judas Priest shirt. Because
Yeah.
I don't have an Ozzy shirt.
I don't have
Or
an
I wear an
Aussie
Ozzy
shirt, but I have an Aussie memory. Anyway, so I just want to say that, you know what, guys, I'll be honest, I was so discouraged when I was shot down, not shut down, because I didn't shut down, and I might have been a little moody for like 24 hours and not my normal Hayley self, and I did kind of lose my attitude and positivity for about a day, and then I just said, to heck with it, you know, it's all a numbers game. And the right opportunity is going to come. And I just kind of refreshed. And the next day, I put out probably 20-something applications and whatnot.
Now you have a job.
And then now I have a job. But within 24 hours, I was already contacted. And everything moved pretty quickly. Now it's a hurry up and wait because they're moving offices. But I'll be starting August 11th. And I'll be right back in the legal field. I will have to be a receptionist for like a little while, but I do move up pretty quick, and I'm just going to take it day by day, and I'm just thankful to have the opportunity. Praise God, praise positivity, and persistence, and positivity is key, my friends.
That's something to be really aware of in our lives, is staying positive when we're going through these things, because you know it's like the other day when I was at work, right? I was talking about this guy he scolded one of the other servers. He was like, I work at a pool hall, and he's like
he works at a pool hall.
he's like, you gotta watch yourself, dude, because both times you came up and asked me if I wanted a drink, I was trying to shoot, and I lost 2 games because of it. And
guess he wasn't that good of a pool player.
That's exactly what the people that were like standing behind him said, and it's just, when you're constantly negative, it's okay to like have some negative feelings about things. We're allowed to have feelings.
Yeah.
But when you're constantly negative, you attract that
negative energy
towards you. And that's when people start being like, I wonder what they talk about when I'm not around, or like, I wonder what they say about me when I'm not around. And that's something that we all can work on, especially as Christians. I think that's actually like more important than just like, what's the term?
We want to be more posy Ozzy and less Debbie Downer. Am I right, guys? Yeah.
You wanna be, like, I think it's just more important to not come off as somebody who is constantly putting other people down around you, because nobody wants to be around somebody like that, and B, that's not Christ-like. And the important thing is that we're striving to be like Christ. It doesn't mean that we don't fall. It's important to remember that everybody sins, and that in the eyes of God, all sins equal the ultimate sacrifice, which is eternal torture.
Yeah.
So, you know, whether you're cheating on your husband or murdering your neighbor, you're a sinner, or lying to your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all of those things mean that you fall short of perfection, and we all do. So in keeping that in mind, and it's something that's hard for like even me when like I'm dealing with people at work that like just kind of don't fall in the same.
It's not
like,
about them though.
Yeah,
it's about you and what you choose to do.
Yeah.
And if you continue to be that light, and yeah, listen, like I've said, I totally admit I had like, my moment of weakness and negativity, and I was a little discouraged. And I'll be honest, even when everything was going through with this, and I was going even to my final interview, I tried not to like show over enthusiasm as I was done with it, because I didn't know. I didn't know how it was going to go. I knew how I wanted it to go. And you know what? When I got the call back, I was like, yes, let's go. They offered to pay me $1 more an hour, and like everything just worked out. And it worked out the way it needed to work out, and the way God wanted it to work out, not necessarily how I was rushing to, I just want to start a job August 1st. Well, you know what? Sometimes, as the saying goes, good things come to those who wait. And again, in this case, it wasn't about me. It was about what God wanted for me. And I'm so much more happy, like, knowing that I'm going to be in the right place, right? And
I think it's important, too, to kind of keep in mind that, the reason why Jesus died on the cross, like, his flesh was severed, his intestines were coming out of his body, his skin was ripped away from his spine, and this was rubbing against the cross as he was dying. And that the whole idea of this is that God had turned his face away from his one and only son, so that he could look upon us with favor for whatever period of time that Jesus was on the cross.
yeah.
And I think it's interesting that they make it those, 3 days? They make it those 3 days because 3 is a holy number in the Holy Trinity. We talk about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So that was the required amount for God to be able to save the entirety of humanity, and to be able to, that's something
forgive our sins.
That's something that we need to remember, that like even when we don't understand why somebody is as bad as they are, or as evil as they are, or as messed up as they are, or like make mistakes like they do, to spread that light is to constantly be like, okay, and we all fall short of this, but to be like, okay, like, I forgive them. And that's probably the hardest thing that we have to do on this earth, is to forgive each other for the trespasses against ourselves, or even just like when you're annoyed with somebody because they're being negative. Anyway, back to Ozzy and Hulk Hogan. We talk about dark paths being made light. I think both Ozzy and Hulk Hogan fall in that that category. It's interesting. Ozzy led a very dark life.
He was called the Prince of Darkness, as his like.
I mean, everybody wanted to be like, yeah, like the occult. And Black Sabbath was, just the very term Black Sabbath was a very dark and mysterious, occultic kind of vibe in that band that was emulated in many, many bands after them, and they paved the way for that kind of music. Ozzy himself, throughout...
He prayed before every single show.
Yeah, he prayed before every concert.
And he was a Christian and considered himself a Christian all his life.
I remember when I was a Satanist, people would always ask me, oh, do you like Ozzy? And I would be like, no. And people would be like, why don't you like Ozzy? And it'd be like, well, because he's a Christian. And people would be like, Ozzy's really a Christian? And I'd be like, yeah, you didn't know that? And most people didn't know that. Ozzy was not incredible. When he sings the song, Mama, I'm Coming Home, he's talking about going to heaven. He's singing that in his song. I think... a lot of us are attracted to this kind of idea of there being a heaven, and that's where we're going. and a lot of artists emulate that in their music, but we tend to hear what we want to hear and not what's being said a lot of the times. And Ozzy led a very dark path of drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Ozzy was not involved in the occult like people think he is as the Prince of Darkness and all this. I think we just see him as this image of the wizard, and we want to put all of that on him because that's what his look kind of represents to us. But Ozzy was a very kind man. He loved his cats. He loved his kids.
Yeah.
He did, toward the end of his life, make sure that he reaffirmed his faith in Christ.
Yeah. Actually, he never stopped believing. He was not a church goer. He didn't really believe in going to church, but he always considered himself Christian. He did go to Sunday school as a kid growing up. And he did pray before every concert, and he prayed every day. And you know what? He read from the Bible, and he took something from the scripture, just like we can all take. And he did consider himself Christian. And you know, it's like Jack, his son, was saying that he kept a Bible next to his bedside, and especially in his final days, he was reading a lot of the Bible. But it's all kind of, what's really cool about that though is like, and I really admire this about Ozzy, because there are a lot of people that didn't know he was Christian. There are a lot of people that didn't know this like good, kind-hearted side of Ozzy that his family got to know and love, and even the members of Black Sabbath. Now you got to also remember, he actually stopped being a part of Black Sabbath around 2005. It was the last time that he actually toured with Black Sabbath before he did his final concert. And that happens to be in his hometown, which is where his funeral service is going to be. I will give you guys kind of the details on that. But what is so awesome about him is like, it was almost like kind of his best kept little secret. Like, not a lot of people knew about it. And I mean, I know in the Bible it says that we should be really exemplary as, you know, Christians, and really, you know, tell the world, you know, and be more about it and live more through Christ and so on and so forth. But for him, it was like this little kind of special relationship that he had with Christ. You know, nobody really knows between what was said between Ozzy and Christ and his prayers and whatnot, but he had a relationship with him, and that's just, you know, I think that's amazing.
I think that's something interesting about Hulk Hogan too, and I'll kind of wrap a lot of the things that we've been talking about into a nutshell with this one. Hulk Hogan, towards the end of his life, in the past few years, also has been going around talking about the Bible and reading, and basically saying like, hey, I was a bad dude. Like, we all know Hulk Hogan was definitely juicing, using illicit droids. He was, you know, definitely up there as far as, you know, the consorts of women that he kept around himself. But, you know, if you look at his story, he starts kind of coming out about all that and saying like, hey, I was wrong. And the thing that's interesting, and this is what always happens, is I feel like the devil always finds a way to turn people against that, because they don't want to hear that message, especially like, you know, some of the most recent generation. That's when he started getting canceled, and people were bringing up, well, Hulk Hogan was racist and all this sort of stuff. But like, I mean, if you look in the WWE and you look at like, not only him, but like what was going on with everybody else, everybody was doing steroids. They were saying ridiculous stuff that was not only racist, but like prejudice and like angry. And it was part of the show.
It was part of the show. That's the thing though, okay? Like, I'm going to step in here because I am a huge fan of WWE. And I watched it like relentlessly. I loved Ric Flair. I loved Hulk Hogan. And I have three older brothers, so, you know, I had a little bit of kind of, like, some parts of my childhood was, like, kind of tomboyish, but I had my little, like, wrestling guys, and I'm like, you know, And I totally had a Hulk Hogan doll, okay? Like, I was into that. But what makes it so cool, I guess, and the thing is that a lot of people may not realize this. Maybe they've seen some of the most recent documentaries, like the Ric Flair one, and there's Hulk Hogan, and there's a bunch of documentaries that, you know, people should really kind of dive into. But the reality is that, you know what, guys? Like, everybody who's a part of that, it was all about, like, a stage and, like, a character that they were playing on being, you know, on TV. And there were even so many of those, like, fights that were kind of, like, faked, right? Yeah, and okay, but
only a real WWE gets upset when you're like, oh, it was a fake fight. Like you know, everybody gets really like touchy about it.
Okay, well, my point is like, listen, a lot of people have a hard time trying to differentiate between who people are on stage, on camera, who they are when they're with their family, or what kind of, you know, relationship they might have with Christ. We so often go into thinking stereotypes of people and what those characters were that they played, and thinking that's just who they are as a person. Listen, like, Jim Carrey is not Ace Ventura, okay? Jim Carrey is not his character Dumb and Dumber.
He's totally
but you know,
gone off the rails.
But I know, but my point is like, you know what, guys, like, they're acting. There's a pretty good part of that that's acting, and they're playing that role. They're playing into that stereotype because they think that that's what the crowd wants. But that's just what they are in that moment they're on stage. Who they are outside of that, they have completely separate lives that a lot of people don't realize. My point is like, don't put it past people. You know, there's a lot more Christians among us than we think really exist, whether it's famous people or not. So
well, and I think there's some power in, you know, the thing is when people can admit that they've made mistakes or that there are mistakes in their life, you know, I think that we as a society need to begin to understand and have some forgiveness, because then people are going to be less likely to hide and people are going to be more likely to change, because the issue is nowadays we're so quick to cancel, to
be judgmental
and raise an entire army against one person for one small thing that makes us angry, whereas instead, you know, we should allow people to
be themselves,
show
and
that,
be more accepting.
not only that, but like show the change. I think, you know, if somebody, that's true repentance. If somebody can't show that they can't change, then that's one thing. If somebody never changes and they're just constantly
they say they're gonna, or people who say that they're gonna change. I want to change. I'm going to change. Well, actions speak louder than words, you know. But giving people a chance. We all deserve a chance. God gave us a chance, a second chance, third chance, fourth chance, you know. And the point is that if God can be so forgiving and so willing to give us a chance, we should be, as Christians, more willing and open to giving more other people a chance. Like, we're going to stumble and fall all along the way. We are imperfect people. But the point is just being, you know, more accepting and understanding and compassionate. And that's something that this world really needs more of, I believe.
Yeah, true Christians aren't the ones that are going out there and saying, oh, well, all trans people are abominations and this, you know. A true Christian understands that that's not for us to decide, that we try our best to follow what is taught to us, but to also understand that, like, hey, you know, this person commits sexual sin, but so do I. You know, I definitely commit sexual sins. Who am I to judge somebody for being gay? Like, if somebody wants to be gay, how does it really affect me? It doesn't really affect me. You know?
it's not for you to judge and decide.
I'm not gonna like go and outwardly be gay just to and join in.
But that's your choice.
But I can make that choice, and as long as I have that choice, and that's my relationship between me and God. Like, you know, if I'm hanging out with my friend that I work with who's gay, I might mirror him and even be like, oh, we're having a good time, like whatever, and like joke about, make some of the same jokes, and like, you know, that's life.
That's also you
part of the fruits of the spirit.
That's also you being accepting of their personality and being like, look, I can vibe with you.
I can vibe with your personality. Yeah. As soon as you try to cross a line with me, I'm gonna get stern and be like,
listen, we have boundaries.
Well, there is a guy that comes into my work that crossed a boundary with me a couple times now, and he actually ended up apologizing because I keep like drawing that line in the sand where like, he'll compliment me and he'll be like, Nick, you are so handsome. And I'll be like, okay, thank you, Kevin. He's this older gay guy.
It's always a Kevin.
I'll be like, thank you, Kevin, like, da da da. And then he'll say something just like he, the first time it happened, he was like, you know, I just really want to see you naked or something like that. And he was like he's always wants a hug, you know. And he's giving me a hug and he whispers it in my ear. And I was like, I hold him like at it by his shoulders. And I look at it, I'm like, Kevin, you know, kindly, why do you have to make it weird, man?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be weird? And he's like, well, I don't think it was weird. I was just telling the truth. Don't you, in your Christian ways, you just want to tell the truth? And I was like, Kevin, like...
How would you act if a woman was coming up to you and is like overly touching? Oh, I really want to see you naked. I mean, that's a turn off to him, right? So you know, sometimes you have to turn.
The street goes both ways.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing was just
some people one way.
If the roles were reversed and I was sitting at a bar as a straight man, and there was a female bartender. And I looked at, and I was like, here, give me a hug. And then I was like, the things I would do to you. Like, what kind of connotates, you know, like, you know, now I'm a filthy, disgusting dirtball, you know, like.
Well, listen, there's this whole other, glad that you're bringing this up, but there's a whole nother gamut of issues with this generation and right now. And what that is that somewhere along the lines, maybe it started with social media. Maybe it started with when it was social media during COVID and nobody was able to like go out in public and say things face to face. But they could get on their soapbox and they could say this, that, and the third, right? And then see them out in public, hey man, I read your post the other day about, guess what? They probably just did a little copy paste thing from somebody else that, you know what I mean? So you got a little bit of that going on, but I was just going to say, like, a lot of people have this whole thing where they do not respect boundaries. They have zero filter and they go about living their lives like it is all about me. And listen, like, I have former friends that were like that, and I had to clearly draw a line in the sand and be like, look, I won't stand for this anymore, and I don't like the way you treat some of my other friends, and I don't like that you're doing this. You know, you might think that it's okay, but this is a boundaries that I'm not comfortable with, and I don't want to be crossed anymore. You've disrespected me as a friend, and it's not that I don't love them as a person. You know, hope for the best for them, pray for them. They are Christian as well, but they're not acting very Christian because they are displaying those type of character types. And I don't really appreciate that either. We need to not only be more accepting and understanding and more open and more open-minded, but people need to also remember, hey guys, let's reverse back to before COVID. BC, and let's remember, like, hey, what happened to like face-to-face conversations, interpersonal communication? A lot of people are losing that too, and they think that they can say and do whatever they want, and they just do not respect boundaries, and they're always testing those boundaries, like constantly, like a sibling that will just constantly press your buttons until you're like, enough, you know? And
I think there's been some loss of social cues since COVID because everybody got so upset at each other. We were like infighting with each other. And I think it's interesting because it's almost like so now people have seen how far they can take with the mask thing. Like people would openly. I worked with a guy that openly screamed at a customer for walking in without a mask on. And I even pulled him aside and was like, "Hey, come on, man. Either way, I understand that, it's a big deal. It's a rule that we have, but I've definitely during COVID got out of my car with that.
Maybe pulled your mask down a little bit.
Yeah, pulled your mask down a little bit, whatever. The thing is that I think during the pandemic, we all were wearing our masks and pointing fingers at people that weren't, and we learned how much finger pointing we could really do, and it's almost like...
So, listen, what did we do so much, and we were required to do during COVID, before lockdown, during lockdown, after lockdown, even after we got back out into the open end of the world? Social distancing. Well, social distancing, as we know, was keep your 6 feet of distance. But if you're keeping your 6 feet of distance, you're also not communicating with people as much. You're not shaking hands as much. You're losing that human connection. And my point is that we're in this weird point right now. We're still in it. It's freaking 2025 and we're still dealing with this. And what that is that people have lost that social interaction because of the social distancing. That it's the long-term effects of still existing. And then so even now, I know when I went to some of my interviews, so interesting that now we're back to a point of, as I'm so great to meet you in person, Regina, shaking hands again. Eye contact, shaking hands. I tell you, all of the interviewing I've had to do over the past couple of months, I was talking to Morgan the recruiter about it today. I was like, listen, Morgan, I know that at the end of the day, the job that I accepted was not one that, that you provided for me, but I just am being grateful for people, and voicing that is really important too, because listen, whether I like it or not, Morgan prepared me for whatever job it was that was going to hire me, right? And whether that was getting more interviewing, practice, or how to verbalize, summarizing my background, or more soft skills, more communication skills. There's those skills that you got to do over FaceTime on the computer. There's skills that you got to be able to do face to face. I'm going to be doing a job where I'm going to be communicating heavily face to face, on the phone, over email, over conferences and stuff like that. That's going to be, great for me, but not everybody thrives on that way, and not everybody's social. So
I thought it was interesting during the pandemic, the amount of infighting and jealousy I had from people that were jealous that I lost my job and that I was on unemployment. Mm-hmm. And yet all I wanted to do is work after. I mean, I'll be honest, after about 2 months. 2 months was like a vacation where I was just chill. For 2 months, it was cool. I can just go drive up into the mountains as much as I want, go hiking and camping, and the gym was closed. But then after that 2 months, and I was still jobless, I actually started looking for another job. Not only because I was bored, but also because when people would find out that I was on unemployment, and friends of mine who were in construction and stuff found out that I was on unemployment, there was an anger towards me, and understandably, because here they are
out
working
they're telling
8 days a week.
Yeah.
Because not 8 days, but they're working overtime.
Oh yeah.
Because there's not enough people to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's so many people on unemployment, And yet here I am,
and people not wanting
sitting
to
on
return
my
to work
butt,
and not come back from
getting unemployment.
Yeah.
And like I felt a lot of guilt for that too, just like that here I was receiving unemployment, and so I went and started working at like one point, just doing construction, just because it was the only thing that I could get, and just trying to get back into the workforce. It was, I mean, it was hard at the same time, because like it was like it's not what I normally do.
Yeah.
I was getting paid like I think $10 or $11 an hour or something like that.
Yep. You're taking, you know,
doing
cheaper
concrete,
pay, and you're doing that instead of accepting the unemployment anymore.
And doing that instead of accepting unemployment.
But you were getting out of the house and you like not having.
Well, actually, the interesting thing about the unemployment was at the time, I was receiving more unemployment because I had gone back to work. There was like a period of time.
Now I'm getting mad at you.
Right.
Okay, first of all, so I was like an essential worker.
It was this, and that frustrated the people that I was working with, because that's one of the reasons why I went back to work, because it was a initiative that they were giving like another, I think it was like $500 a month if you went back to work. And so in your unemployment, if you just went back to work. And so I did, because I wanted to work. And then it just the way that whole situation was handled, nobody sat in a boardroom and was like, I almost feel like they sat in a boardroom and they're like, how can we make people really angry at each other?
You know, I don't know. All I have to say though is like everybody had their own different like dynamics of things. So for me, I had pre-existing health conditions. So I was one of the first ones that had to, before anybody else, really, even anybody else in my office, I was already working from home. And I had already had to do that because previously, earlier that year is when I had my health thing, my blood clots, and I was out of work. Like, well, I wasn't out of work. I was working from home for 6 months. I never was out of work. I was working in digital advertising, and I was an editor. And I went from it being the busiest advertising and sales year that was in company history, like over 30, 40 years. We were hitting company growth, sales growth, everything. Like we were doing so freaking well. I was so overwhelmed with how many clients I had and how much advertising I was selling. Well, my base salary was $30,000 a year, but I was making so much commission that I was making easily $50,000 to $60,000 a year in just commission on top of that. So there was no way that anybody was going to buy advertising during that, but I still had to keep working for the company, and I had to switch gears. I had to be more of a PR person and telling all my clients, hey, we're going to pause your campaign. And when you ever open again, we'll start it back up again. But nope, you're under contract, so I can't cancel you and I can't refund you, because then I would be in the negative also. You know what I mean? So like I was dealing with all that, and my boss still kept me on the payroll at only $500 a week. Well, I went from like $2,000 a week minimum to $500 a week. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I also was like, look, I'm going to have to get creative here. I picked up extra freelance writing gigs and working with other people on other projects, which was really fun. And that was just a little bit of it. Then I also was so freaking sick of being in my house and doing all of my work from home. Yes, did I have the luxury of working from home? Absolutely. But I was so sick of it. So I started doing the Instacart deliveries. And I knew mountain communities like where your mom lives, where I lived once. And I knew how many middle-aged and, well, not even middle-aged, but like, you know, boomers and above and everything, that they couldn't leave their houses. They needed groceries. I was bored. I just wanted to go out driving, you know, and that was a job I could do where, yeah, I had to wear the mask if I went to the grocery store shopping and whatnot. I did not ever want to take orders where they were asking for toilet paper, but just about anything else, you know, I was happy to do. And that was really great money during the pandemic. And I just did everything I could. And like you said, I was I was easily working like 80 hours a week just to try to make a fraction of what I was making before. Inevitably, I got to where I just literally couldn't even afford my rent anymore. And I went and worked with Jess doing appraisals and did work that I never done before ever. But you know, the pandemic was crazy times, and I'm happy to hear you got to do the unemployment thing and you got paid unemployment even when you were working. So your $11 an hour was probably more like what, 20 at the end of the day when you get that extra 500.
Oh, I mean,
come on, like.
Yeah, no. Well, I also was doing DoorDash up until, because it took like 2 months for me to get for me to get unemployment at all.
Oh, wow.
And my job had shut down. Yeah, that was
And you
the
were
hard
working
part.
in restaurants.
And I was in college at the time, so I was only working 3-4 days a week, making like $500 a week, maybe. And so money was like really tight.
Yeah, after a test, you made more money then.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, absolutely. Like once I started getting unemployment, then all of a sudden, like things were okay. But leading up to getting unemployment was really rough. Like I was just living off of like what I could make doing DoorDash, like here and there. I would just DoorDash like just enough to be able to pay my car insurance, you know, like, and I the other thing was I was moving in the middle of when all that happened, so that was a mess.
Oh yeah, I moved. Speaking of which, I moved, I think 4 times between 2020 and 2021, and then another 2 times between 2021 2022. And then inevitably that's what drove me to leave to go to New York, because I got to a point after COVID and everything where I was just so sick of the cost of living in Denver. And at that point in time, it was crazy. Now it's actually got back to a little bit more reasonable, but you know, we're also fortunate to be a couple and living together and sharing whatnot, and you've been helping me out, and now I'm gonna get to help us both out. Wow.
Back to
great perspectives though. Yes, I wanted to really quickly state that if anybody does want to watch the Ozzy funeral on a live stream, I am hearing that if you want to do that, there is a URL that you can go to, and it's pretty easy to remember because we know the band that he was in before, which was Black Sabbath. So guys, if you want to go to the URL and watch this live stream, the good news is that they're going to be streaming it from Birmingham, England, where it's his hometown and where the Black Sabbath bench is, where there has been, you know, fans already loading that up with tons of memorabilia and everything dedicating to Ozzy already. So there is the Black Sabbath Bridge, guys, that is in Birmingham, England, and it is where they're going to have this live stream, and there's now a URL for it. So the URL is going to be all lowercase, Black Sabbath, and if you don't know how to spell Sabbath, that's SABBATH, bench.co, like Colorado.uk. The only bad news is because this service is going to start with a private service that nobody's going to have access to, then followed by them driving through this hometown in Birmingham, England. They're starting the service with a live stream at 1 p.m. there in Birmingham, but in the UK, that equates to that being 8 a.m. Eastern, and we live here in Mountain Standard Time, so it'll be 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. for Mountain Standard Time, and for our friend Jess, who lives on the West Coast, if she wants to watch it, it's going to be a 5 a.m. thing. So if you want to see that and it's a live stream, it's not going to just be recorded and you can go back and see it. So depending on how big of a Ozzy or Black Sabbath fan you are, you can go ahead and do that. So that is going on. And finally, I wanted to read a few Bible verses, but before I dive into that, I just wanted to talk kind of about what we started with talking about earlier, and like people who can be negative. Guys, these negative people, whether we like it or not, can be more of an influence or more a part of our lives. You don't get to choose who that person is. You just got to really hit them with as much positivity as you can. But I want to say that I'm not going to go any further, but saying that there are even family members and our closest friends who can be negative, and just don't let that really impact you. And they have their ways of trying to sway you or make you feel like maybe you had a really strong, confident feeling in yourself about something, and you ask them about their opinion on something, and they give you the worst case scenario and they don't think about the best case scenario. I know Nick's knowing what I'm talking about right now. We won't talk about the details of that right now. But my point is, you know what? Don't lose your courage. Don't lose your light. So the couple Bible verses that I would like to discuss before we go into prayer today. First one is about being strong and courage. And this one is going to be from 2 Chronicles, and it's going to be 15 and verse 7. But you be strong, and do not let your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. So that kind of, I think I was just saying, don't let yourself be weak. Maintain being strong, maintain that positivity. Your work will be rewarded, whether it's longer than, the deadline that you wanted to set for yourself or not. In God's time, it will come. So do not lose hope, do not lose faith, and do not lose courage. Gonna jump over here. Fear not, okay? And we're now in Isaiah, and we are at 41. Oh, where is it? I had my purple. No, oh, here it is. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. So, this is kind of that whole theory of all things are possible with Christ, right? And we may be fearful or lose hope or faith sometimes, but you know what? It's one of those things, you just got to take that leap of faith and know that as long as you got God by your side, that you don't have to fear. He's got you, all right? And finally, this is just kind of a thing I want to talk about as far as confidence goes. So at Hebrews, and we are at chapter 10 and verse 35. Therefore, do not cast away your confidence, which has great reward. For you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. Okay? With that being said, is there anything you would like to comment on before you lead us in prayer?
I want to pray this prayer right here. And I just want to reach out to anybody who may be watching this. Maybe you're a new viewer. Maybe you've seen us before. Maybe you're just randomly coming across this. And I'd like to just kind of point out that, I don't lead a perfect life. I don't claim to lead a perfect life. I live a very imperfect life, and I continue to, and I strive to do better every day. It does not matter what walk you come from. If you're struggling in your life right now, understand that God has done more for me than you could ever imagine. The first step is simply beginning to believe and understand that path, there's a lot of stumbling. Mm-hmm. You're not just going to suddenly, come to Christ and all of a sudden you're going to be this perfect person that doesn't make mistakes. I still make mistakes. In coming to Christ, it took me an incredible amount of time to actually accept Christ. I continue to go back to my ways, but God continued to show me that after I came back to him, that he had this wonderful gift for me, and that he was waiting for me, and that no matter what I went through, if I came to him, he would use what I was going through to show others that they could get through what they're going through. Mm-hmm. That no matter what you're facing, that he will give you the peace, even if something really, like, I have absolute peace that even if the worst case scenario happens to me, that I'm going to be all right. Mm-hmm. Because he's continued to show me that. And I just want anyone who's hearing this message to understand that, and that, like, you don't really have to change anything in your life. Like, you don't, I hate preachers that are like, oh, well, if you continue to sin, you're going to go to hell. You're going to continue to sin. That's just a fact of life. We are all made in the flesh. We're all made in the flesh. The only point is to continue to strive to do better. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Christ understands that a lot of the time we can only really do that one thing at a time. That means that, like, you don't just sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit doing drugs, I'm going to quit drinking, I'm going to quit having sex.
I'm going to read 10 chapters of the Bible tonight, and then...
Yeah, I'm going to read 10 chapters in the Bible tonight, and then I'm going to go donate my entire life savings to the convent down the street. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not reasonable. To be reasonable with yourself, and the only thing that Jesus wants, even if you don't fully turn from your ways, is just for you to accept and trust him. And it's that trust. It's just that you would place your trust in him, and that he would start to take where you're at and turn it towards him, and that you would at least try to start making those changes.
Yeah, and he will help guide you along the way too. Like, you know, we all played the game when we were kids. Trust falls, right? Just, it's kind of the same concept, you know, like, but don't try to, like, just hope that God's going to catch you and do the actual trust falls. Okay, I mean, like,
you're still
I'm talking figuratively. I'm not talking literally.
You're still in control of your life. You're still living your life. It's just the idea that you start having a personal conversation with Jesus every day, where you're like, and you know, it's, I think, furthermore, when we're talking about Ozzy, and we're talking about Hulk Hogan, and we're talking about these two very intimate personalities, that a lot, and by intimate I mean that a lot of people have a very intimate relationship with these personalities, and their lives,
they're very
and what they want them
to
be. I want you to understand that you can still have this dark aesthetic. You can still like that music. You can still wear black. You can still dye your hair pink or purple. You can still be yourself. And be accepted by Jesus. And there are people out there, and there are churches out there where those people will love you. And it's funny how your mindset starts to change. Like, you know, it's like, I still, you know, Marilyn Manson, I don't still love all of his music, but yet again, at the same time, I love his music because I see a man who is just as broken and messed up as the rest of us. I see a man who's incredibly intelligent and smart. And Marilyn Manson is an incredible human being. I would love to have another conversation with the man. I think he brings a lot to this world, and he could bring a lot more to this world. I think that him as a Satanist, even, I think there will be a day where he's intelligent enough that he
will find the way.
Somebody will capture him, and he will start to break down and see the wrongness in his ways. I think there's a lot of men out there and a lot of women out there that are leading this sinful path, that are starting to come to God, because we know it's beginning to come into the end of days. And I think that's something that seeing people like Ozzy and Hulk Hogan passed, and knowing that they accepted Christ because they knew deep in their hearts, just like I knew when I was a practicing Satanist.
Yeah, they're very perceptive and knowing, like...
My dad did, when, even as a
we
Satanist...
all know, but sometimes you don't know, and guess what? You could get hit by a car, you could, you might get shot while somebody's at a drive-by. I mean, you could be at a gas station, and somebody could be holding at the gas station, and you could be shot. So, the point is like, yes... you can essentially start to create that relationship with God at any point in time, but don't wait too long.
I, in many ways, had this conversation with God when I was performing rituals a lot. When I would be, because I felt that I was in this very spiritual place, up here in this very room.
Mm-hmm.
I would be up here performing.
Like right here?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I would be up here and I would be performing rituals. And it's interesting because yet I was worshiping Satan. I was putting myself in the spiritual realm where I was having this conversation with God, and God was looking at me, and it was like I could feel him. And it felt good in a way to be able to take control of my life and the lives around me and meld them into what I thought was going to fit. But the problem is God sees the big picture, and he sees the puzzle piece that I fit in. And I was trying to form that into something, and it didn't fit into what it needed to.
Yeah, you're putting a square into a circle or whatever.
Yeah, like. and now that I trust him, the trust is that I'm down here and I don't see the big picture, and I know what I want for my life, but I don't know how to get it, but God does, because he's above everything. He exists outside of our physical realm, and he knows that as he places people around me. That's something that I pray often, that he places the right people around me. And it's funny how those people just pop up slowly in my life.
Yeah.
When I would be in that very spiritual place, I would have this conversation with God where sometimes I was angry, sometimes I was kind of like a little kid where I was like, ha ha ha, I'm going to do this anyway because it's cool. And yet I knew that because what I was doing was working, that he existed. I knew that because these symbols and these things that I tattooed on my body and that the occult existed, that gave glory to God as existing, because it proves that there is a spiritual realm behind everything. And I think a lot of people are searching for that, and they're searching for this occult and like these sorts of things because they want to be mysterious and they want to see what's behind the veil. But let me tell you,
they want to be spiritual, but they don't want to be sometimes they don't even want to be necessarily religious. They may just want to meditate, or I feel like I'm being spiritual when I go to yoga, and then they're fine, but like it's not fulfilling enough. Like,
let me tell you, when you get there, if you continue to search for the ultimate truth and the ultimate answer, and you're looking for that, and you pull back that veil, it is not what you want to see. It is suddenly like it's the
brightest light ever, and you're like, look at my glasses.
It's worse than that, and I'll tell that story in another time podcast. But when you start to pull back what I would call the strings of reality,
yes,
and look at the beings that are behind it, they're the most frightening things that you've ever experienced in your life. I can't even begin to
we'll circle back on that.
You're like, I don't want to talk about this tonight.
No, because I don't like.
You're like, this happened here in this house. Yes, it did.
Yeah, well,
I pulled back the fabric of reality. I didn't go as far as Aleister Crowley. Did you know that Crowley... Okay, this is an interesting story. Check this out. Sorry.
I love story time. Go ahead.
Okay, so Crowley did a ritual...
And who's Crowley for those of us that don't know?
Aleister Crowley, who is the guy who's like the figurehead of the Freemasons,
Okay,
before
thank
the
you.
Freemasons were the Freemasons, back when he was like in the Rosicrucians, and
He's like OG.
yeah, he was like he is basically what founded what we know is now modern day Freemasons, and was a Freemason when they were just forming. And he was very well known for being homosexual, but yet in public, because this was back in like the early 1800s, he always had like a woman to kind of overcompensate and prove that he wasn't gay. Yeah, there's a lot. I have one of his books actually.
Okay, well, let's get to our point here.
He bought the house that what's his name from Led Zeppelin, who's the singer, Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page, I was gonna say.
Jimmy Page had bought this house and left this house because it's so haunted. Because do you know what Aleister Crowley did? He did the ritual to meet, and it's like the one thing that you just do not do. Like use a Ouija board before you do this, and using a Ouija board we know is bad. This is like the one thing that you do not do. He decided that he wanted to meet his guardian angel. And that's like the one thing you don't do. The interesting, it's
because there's going to be demons who say that they're the guardian angel and they're not.
No, well, yes and no. What'll happen is your guardian angel will become trapped in this realm and not be able to help you in the spiritual realm anymore.
Oh my gosh.
So the interesting thing about that, so
we got angry trapped souls and the house that Jimmy Page moved into. Yeah.
So the interesting thing in my life, as I've pushed that veil, there's something about being able to smell something. It's almost there is like a very specific, it's an indescribable sense of,
I'm like a hound dog. I can like smell like everything, like.
But this is like a spiritual smell. Like you still smell it in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's this weird like metallic, almost ethereal like smell. Like angels, like your guardian angels and demons have their own demons.
So some people
like
see things,
sulfur.
some people hear things, some people smell things. You're saying you smelled things.
I've both seen, heard, and smelled things, but the most powerful one is I have always established a physical barrier around myself at all times. I will say that demons and angels have very specific smells, and I know when I'm about to get in a lot of trouble or something bad is going to happen because I can actually smell my future of bad. Like before I went to jail, I could smell jail before I went there, and I knew the smell from before. It was like really interesting. It was like I knew I was going there because I could smell it, and I knew like all the signs.
Okay, so listen, let's circle back here. What was the whole point of Jimmy Page and the Mason and?
Just back to like you know that.
So why did he?
The whole point is, and what I'm telling everybody is that the deeper you reach into the occult, the more you're going to prove to yourself that
it's not
the
right.
Spiritual world exists, that God exists, that Jesus is real, that Satan is very real. Satan exists in this realm. These demons, these beings, these characters, they exist in this realm. And if you play with it, you will find out. Like, yeah, maybe you'll have like a great story about it, but are you willing to go through, or do you just want to listen to me tell the story? Because I'll tell you all about it, and it's not worth it.
I'm going to take your word for it.
I think everybody should.
Yeah. Great.
Anyway, so
as we always do, it's our tradition, we will close in prayer. And Nick, would you like to do it tonight, or would you like me to?
I would like to.
Okay.
And I would like to start by saying, O great Spirit, O God, our Lord, on high, I give all glory to you for everything that you've done for us. Jesus, whose voice I hear in the wind, whose breath gives life to the world, here I come to you as one of your many children. I'm small and weak. I need your strength and your wisdom. May I walk in your beauty. May my eyes be ever ready to behold the red and purple sunset. Take my hands and use them to respect the things that you have made. Make my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may know the things that you have taught your children. Give me eyes to read the lessons that you have written in your book and on every leaf and rock. Make me forever strong, not to be superior to my brothers and sisters, but to fight my greatest enemy, which is myself. Make me ever ready to come to you with straight eyes, so that when life fades, as the sun fades, my spirit can come to you without shame. In your holy name, Yeshua, amen.
Amen. That was beautiful, Nick. Thank you. I feel extra enlightened. Listen, thank you guys for watching, listening. Hopefully you learned something. I learn something every time we do this. We kind of go into this with a little bit of an idea of what we're going to talk about. Sometimes we just, continue to go off of, our own kind of ideas as they come about. It's been very interesting, and I've really enjoyed this session, and I hope that everyone is watching. You continue to watch, and if you could like and subscribe and tell your friends any comments you'd like to see or hear from us, we would love that. We're going to have some really exciting news that I'm not revealing now. And
lots
and
of
coming,
different newses.
Lots of exciting stuff to come.
Yeah.
And listen, I hope you guys will send me some good vibes as I start my new job, but you'll see me before then. And I wish you all a very happy week.
Thank you guys for watching, anybody who has. And please like, subscribe. Please share this with your friends. And give us a big thumbs up.
Lastly, if you do want to see the live stream again, it's going to be blacksabbathbench.co.uk. If you are in Eastern Standard Time, that's going to be 8 a.m., 7 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, or 5 a.m. and the Pacific. Also, lastly, just want to say that our hearts are with everybody who was affected by, there was a huge earthquake today, which has put everybody in California all the way up to the Oregon coast in fear of tsunami and tsunami warning. So that may be happening in the next hour or two. Hitting landfall, so we just pray that the damage is minimal, and Lord, we just pray for these natural disasters to start to minimize. All right, have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Let's keep dark light. Okay, bye.